This video has a lot of really bad mic moments for me, mostly because my mic just kind of sucks. So there's going to be clipping in a lot of my words. But, hope you enjoyed anyways. Okay, you've seen the title of this video, and I'm assuming you know why I'm here. It's been a long time since everything regarding me went down, so after almost 2 years now, I'm here to hopefully put an end to all of this. Also, scripting this took forever. I don't want this to seem unserious by any means. That's not the tone of this video. I'm just tying up loose ends because I'm still talked about to this day, and a lot has changed that I don't think has been shown that much to other people yet. All right, so here's a pretty concise list of everything that there are complaints about. Valid or not, people still care, so of course I'm going to address it. This is everything major I remember, so if there's something you or any number of people are still somewhat upset about, which I forgot, let me know in the comments. Keep in mind that throughout this entire section, not just this, but throughout every single thing being addressed here, I was only 14 years old. If that doesn't make you feel any better, sure, I get it. But keep it in mind. One, the stealing rumor. This feels like it came from a really long game of telephone. I'll keep it simple for this one, and it pretty much boils down to this. Most of the things you see that were supposedly stolen by me weren't, or at least not in the way that you'd think. There are only two reasons I can remember off the top of my head as to why in the past I legitimately used someone else's instrumental without prior asking. One, the composer is so well known to the point I at the time expected most people to tell off rip. That's where the kind of thing like the video Funky 99 that used to be not unlisted on the channel comes from, for example. One could argue that just expecting people to tell and not linking anything in expectation of it being obvious it wasn't mine is an act of ignorance. I can agree with this. It's a very valid criticism to make. The second reason is it being a legitimate parody of the Kaneko joke, or in other words, purposefully unoriginal for the sake of parody. Like, for example, Land of the Depressed Expunged King that I composed for Bobby II. Nearly every other instance people cite is something that I either A, remember asking for permission for use of the project file itself, or B, actually paying for permission to freely use said thing or project file. Sadly, I can't provide any specific evidence of this, as the Twitter accounts that I think I actually used to do this are gone. I just genuinely don't have a reason to lie anymore. If you wanted an answer, there you have it. All right, 2. The porn shit. Okay, this is the big one, or at least it's what I see talked about the most when referring to this whole expose. Now, with that said, I'll get to the point. Yes, at the time, even with me just being 14, I was looking and engaging with porn depicting mostly underage boys paired with other girls. Crazily enough, I even had an entire dedicated Twitter account I made just to look at those things. I can't make this any easier to hear, but it's true. This started at what feels like around early 2024, and April of that same year is when this came out. 3, the slur shit. Also around what feels like early 2024, I was in a group chat of 3 people, Jordy, Cone, and me. Keep in mind that Jordy goes by Julia now, and you should refer to her as such. I'm only using this old, no longer used name of hers for the sake of separating these 2 time periods. Alright, anyways. These are our 3 important people. There were obviously more people in the group chat at the time, but these are the only 3 people that matter for the sake of this. I frequently got into petty arguments with Jordy, and these went on for a long while, typically over the most pointless, stupid things you could imagine. Most of the time it was some back and forth about which dumb teenager's Dave and Bambi music taste was better. Jordy, as well as Cone at the time in the group chat, both verbally allowed me to say the N-word around them in both calls and through text. Naturally, being my age and considering the fact they both found it funny and seemingly had no issue with me doing this, I went along with it. Eventually, it even got to a point where this was starting to become my humor too. So as one could probably guess, I eventually started using this word in those mentioned petty arguments from before as a kind of easy get out of jail free card for whatever I didn't have a thought out response to, or just whatever annoyed me enough. I'd even spam the damn thing whenever I got real lazy. Despite all of this, I was still relatively under the belief that I was not any kind of black dude, and I said that I believed this when they were trying to justify my use of the word as acceptable due to Hispanic people being linked to African Americans in their eyes. I would on multiple occasions say this, but they never went public with it until Orion found out about this and took issue. It seems like to them, me saying a word in an inappropriate manner only mattered when later on they had an opportunity to out me for it, not because it was actually wrong on its own. Like I alluded to earlier, Orion, who was one of the newer members, asked to invite his friend Old after a couple months of me being in the group chat. After only a few hours of Old being there, Orion asked to call and chill out, to which I accepted. In that call, I was making music, and while I was doing that, I quite literally went quoting this meme right here as a joke, which obviously had a bit of a surprised reaction from Old. Old immediately confronted me on this, asking why I was saying this, and I proceeded to, well, almost exactly repeat the same things, like, it doesn't have any hate behind it, and it's okay because I'm Hispanic, both of which I was told in that group chat as reasoning to why this, quote, wasn't a bad thing to do. They both nearly immediately left the call, and just a few hours later on that day, the document immediately dropped, to which I panicked and deleted everything. Okay, so now that you've heard all of that, I can now use this section to add context onto everything explained before, starting with the first big one. 1, the porn shit. Again, I made it very clear that I was 14 years old at the time of doing this and at the time of it coming out. For context, at this age, I was likely in 8th grade when this happened. The year prior, 7th grade, was one of my worst years outside of the internet. I was highly suicidal and had nearly gotten taken to a protective institution on 2 separate occasions. This feeling was caused by multiple factors. I had an abusive group of friends, most being IRL, during this time that would frequently threaten me with violence and repeat whatever slurs they had on their mind, whether that be towards me or whether they just wanted to. I was struggling with my grades at the time. I was also facing loneliness, not because of my fairly well-off YouTube channel at the time, but because of my lack of real friends in my real life. This didn't stop in 8th grade, and in fact, it got worse than it was before. That year in 8th grade, I started to not only get bullied even more intensely in school, but also got physically assaulted one time for trying to speak against this, leaving me with a very bloody nose and lots of public humiliation due to being assaulted this way in front of what felt like the whole school, even if it wasn't as many people as I had imagined at the time. Following things getting worse like this at school, I became more reclusive, more of a shut-in, and eventually I only ever really talked with 1, that cruel group, and 2, with the mod fans I could message on Discord. This all came to a point where I began wishing bad things on myself, and this came in multiple forms, most notably in the form of me fantasizing about being sexually assaulted by older women. Once I started this, I just kept going, as it almost felt like some kind of escapism from my life. I'd often place myself in the shoes of a situation like that, almost like some kind of punishment for letting myself be treated like this in other parts of my life. In a way, it felt good to be hurt, I guess. Second of all, back to the slur usage. This was all taking place quite literally in tandem of me being in 8th grade, along with everything else I explained was happening to me at the time. I had become heavily desensitized to this kind of behavior, especially after having it be commonplace in one of the very few places I physically interacted in, being that toxic group in real life that I mentioned prior. Upon being told that despite being white, I could use this due to my nationality, I took up the opportunity and made a joke of mindlessly sending it every chance I got. This was amplified by the ridiculously pointless arguments I would get into in that personal group chat, and eventually this behavior had become completely normalized for me. I barely even realized how it all added up by the end. This all culminated in me, as you know, inviting Orion and then Old, which led to me casually refuting any issue with saying these words. I had seen it around me, and I'd had my use of it justified to me so many times that I just repeated the same things back to them, even when it was in a call. Now that we know what I did and why, I have a couple things I'd like to voice my own personal opinion on. Obviously, I'll be keeping this as reasonable as I can. For one, the way basically the entire fan base went about discussing this is extremely irresponsible, and it showed just how ill-equipped the community is when it comes to actually handling problems with people and making them actually get better. Upon having the information dropped, not one person attempted to actually help or have a serious talk with me upon getting me to stop. And this wasn't just right after it dropped. This was for months and months and months, all the way up until now. Everyone I can think of immediately jumped to mocking me, threatening me to stay off the internet by using things like my real name, using linked images of my face that were put out there without my permission, and posting everywhere for the sole purpose of making a joke out of me, and actively seeking any other account I made just to get me immediately banned without ever bothering to ask me about anything that happened or trying to fix the problem. This carried on for a long time, and even now, after much more than a year, I still see this happening. Almost nobody through that whole period was actually wanting to hear what I had to say, and almost nobody through all of that was considering how old I was at the time. They just changed their minds and all decided to essentially dogpile a teenager. It'd be much more comfortable for me if it was more like a thing like, we choose to not interact with you or support your content anymore. But it wasn't. The way that this was handled, and I think everyone can accept this without denying it for a second, was complete mockery, not properly discussing the problem and what was actually being done wrong here, and borderline harassment. I understand that the community has been and was filled with other kids my age that probably couldn't handle anything better, and saw these things as more of a joke to make fun of someone with rather than an actual human being behind the screen doing a lot of wrong and having issues at such a young age. I myself also fell into the trap of making mockery of it and not trying to truly learn more about someone else's wrongdoing when hearing about it. But just as I am accepting the wrong that I've done both before and during the exposal, I seriously hope that the people that have contributed to this toxic thought process regarding me the most can also accept that doing all of this was not only unnecessary, but also extremely harmful and disrespectful in the same way that they would likely criticize me for doing, like I was at the time. After everything throughout this very long stretch of time, I had what was basically nothing at the time. I had let my escapism reach its peak and therefore cause consequences for me, and I had let my impulsive reactions and normalization of slurs due to other people ruin my relationships with those I held close. I had to change something. So I did. After a period of fucking around with useless and pointless side FNF projects in May to July of 2024, I dropped all of it and started to really take time on my own. Because of the rough period in middle school, I was being given therapy and medication to handle my emotional problems and baggage. In October of 2024, after thinking things through, I started the Anonymous Bambi channel, which was just a huge shitpost at the time. The more I thought it over, the more I wanted this to actually be a place to see what the social space was like after this much time. By now, I had a plan formed for how the channel would end. In November 2024, I finally started to find a place to put my art and enjoy doing so, and in December, I had reluctantly finally found a partner for the following 10 months. In April of this year, as you know, I took that plan to end the channel into action and finally dropped Backlash. It wasn't any kind of hit piece like the other songs were, but instead a way for me to close off what felt like a loose end for me, I guess. After all of this, I spend the rest of my time up until now tying up other loose ends and reforming old bonds, not for the sake of some fake reputation, but out of care for those I used to talk to. Now, in my current day, on my own, finding so much social grounding and creative outlets through all of that time really let me have an actual sense of self that I'm comfortable with now. One where I didn't have to bicker with others and indulge in self-destructive behavior and crude language to ignore my problems like I used to when I was younger. I feel good now. I guess. Better than I ever did, even when I was blowing up my channel years back. I can't force anyone to really listen to this entire thing or even agree, and I get it if some just don't want to. If you genuinely do feel like holding a grudge for things someone did at 14, I can't make you stop. It's your decision. That being said, I've taken the time to, like I said, reform other bonds that I've missed out on. Just to illustrate that point, I can name off even just a few bonds I've reformed that come to mind, and this isn't even everyone I can remember. Enzo Polis, Nullier, Ori64, to Russ Extreme or Ruxin, who had come to me after I revealed myself on Anonymous Bambi telling me how happy he was to see me again, even while 100% knowing everything that happened in the past. 7 Edward, The True Account 2, Serena Fan, Murmury Replevi, Premium Electricity, Julie, TY3L, Zust, GVs, Certified, Bobby Official, and probably a whole lot of other people I didn't bother to write down. This isn't to say that you or anyone else's opinion should be dictated by the people around you, but if you're still adamantly and openly upset despite everything already said in this video, this might show you that there's probably another angle you're not seeing it from. This video was never intended to be some kind of apology, appeal piece, or plea deal to try and remake my own channel in a week. I don't intend to. At least not for a good while, until I know I'll be comfortable with it and I have a specific goal in mind. I hope you, or whoever's looking at this, can click off of this video with maybe a different outlook on things that you didn't know as much about before. And if you're not, I hope you can at least be more informed on everything. I wish nothing but the best for such a creative community, even if previous statements might show a level of cynicism regarding how things could go. That's all I have to say. I'll see you later.